The damp chill of the Venetian evening crept through the narrow alleys, curling around Elena Rossi like a cloak. The aqua altar had swollen the canals beyond their banks, water lapping at the foundations of centuries-old palazzi, transforming the city into a labyrinth of liquid pathways and shadowed corners. Elena's boots splashed softly on the slick stones as she made her way toward the cafe where Isabella Moretti had agreed to meet her. The door swung open with a tinkling bell, revealing a small, dimly lit room fragrant with the scent of strong coffee and aged wood. Elena's eyes adjusted quickly to the low light, settling on Isabella seated at a corner table, her posture regal despite the casual surroundings. The noblewoman's gaze was as cold and precise as the knife hidden behind her smile. "You relate," Isabella said, her voice smooth, but edged with a subtle reproach. "Traffic on the water is unpredictable," Elena replied, taking the seat opposite her. She studied Isabella carefully, the flawless silk dress, the diamond earrings catching the candlelight, the faintest crease of calculation at the corner of her mouth. Isabella leaned forward slightly, her eyes narrowing. "I hear your little excavation is causing quite a stir among the families. Dangerous waters you re-wading into." Elena's fingers tightened around her cup. The truth is always dangerous, especially when it threatens to expose long-buried secrets. A slow smile curved Isabella's lips. Secrets are the currency of Venice. Some are better left underwater. The metaphor was not lost on Elena. The floodwaters outside mirrored the rising tensions within the city's elite. And within this very room, she pressed on. "Are you here to warn me, Isabella? Or to offer your support?" Isabella's gaze flickered, a shadow crossing her face before she masked it once more. "Perhaps both. But trust is a rare commodity these days. Be careful who you count as an ally." Elena left the cafe with her mind swirling. Isabella's words were both a warning and a challenge. Her ambiguous loyalties had become an obstacle she could no longer ignore. The social fabric of Venice was fraying, and Elena was caught in the middle, uncertain who would stand with her when the waters finally broke. Later that night, Luca Bellini met Elena at the edge of a narrow canal. His gondolier's uniform was damp from the mist, his face etched with concern. "They were watching you more closely now," he said quietly as he helped her into the boat. "Isabella's game is more complicated than it seems." The boat glided silently through the glassy water, the city's lights reflecting like jewels scattered on the surface. Every splash of the oar echoed in the stillness, a reminder of the precarious balance they all navigated. Elena nodded. "I need to know who I can trust." But trust seems as elusive as the tide. Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Detective Dario Sartori, waiting on a bridge ahead. His dark coat was pulled tight against the cold, eyes sharp beneath his furrowed brow. "Elena," he called softly, "we need to talk. It's not safe to be out here alone." She stepped onto the bridge, the water swirling beneath their feet, carrying with it the secrets of the city. "You're remaking powerful enemies," Dario warned, "people who won't hesitate to silence you if you cross the wrong line." Elena looked into his eyes, searching for doubt or deception, but found only wary resolve. "I'm not planning to back down," she said firmly. "The past deserves to be uncovered, no matter the cost." Dario sighed, a mixture of admiration and caution in his voice. "Then you will need allies you can depend on, and a plan to survive the rising tide." As the aqua altar continued its relentless advance, Venice itself seemed to hold its breath. The Grand Palazzo, hosting the masked ball, was alive with music and laughter, a stark contrast to the undercurrents of fear and suspicion threading through the crowd. Elena moved through the throng, the ornate masks hiding faces both friendly and hostile. Whispers followed her like shadows, and every glance felt loaded with unspoken threats. She found Isabella across the room, a vision of elegance amid the swirling silks and glittering jewels. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the facade of civility cracked, revealing the war waging beneath. The night stretched on, a dance of alliances formed and broken, each step bringing Elena closer to a truth that could drown them all. The city's beauty was a delicate mask, concealing a roiling sea of betrayal and ambition. As dawn approached, Elena stood alone on a balcony overlooking the flooded piazza. The water shimmered beneath the pale light, a mirror to the turmoil in her heart. She knew the tides of suspicion were rising, and with them, the danger that threatened to consume Venice and herself. But retreat was not an option. The secrets beneath the surface demanded to be heard, and Elena Rossi was determined to listen, no matter the cost. The city held its breath, waiting for the next wave to break. The Aqua Alta had reached its zenith, and Venice lay transformed beneath a swollen sky, its labyrinth of canals swollen beyond their banks, the streets awash in shimmering, restless water. Elena Rossi stood at the edge of a flooded piazza, the water lapping gently at her boots, her breath misting in the cold night air. Lanterns hanging from wrought iron posts cast wavering, golden reflections on the rippling surface, while the distant toll of church bells echoed softly through the mist, a solemn herald of the storm that had long been gathering beyond the horizon. The city seemed to hold its breath, an ancient, silent witness to the unfolding drama. Elena's dark hair was pulled back tightly, strands damp from the humid air, her practical jacket clinging to her frame as she surveyed the empty square. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily upon her. For weeks, she had chased whispers beneath the water, piecing together fragments of a conspiracy that stretched back centuries, implicating the powerful families who had shaped Venice's destiny. Now the threads converged, and the shadows of history beckoned her toward a confrontation she could no longer avoid. From the shadows near the canal's edge, a figure emerged, tall, impeccably dressed, his gaze as sharp and cold as the waters surrounding them. Marco Vianney. His presence was as commanding as the tide itself, a living embodiment of the hidden corruption beneath Venice's glittering surface. The polished leather of his shoes gleamed even as the water threatened to encroach further, and his calculating eyes fixed steadily on Elena. "You've come far, Elena," Marco began, his voice low and smooth, carrying the weight of inherited power and ancient grudges. "But some stones are better left unturned, some waters left undisturbed." Elena met his gaze evenly, her own eyes blazing with a fierce determination that belied the vulnerability she felt within. "The truth is not a threat, Marco. It is a necessity. Venice deserves to know what lies beneath its beauty." A bitter smile curled at the corner of Marco's lips. "And yet, the truth can drown what we cherish most: stability, honor, legacy." Their words hung between them like a fragile bridge over the flooded piazza, the tension palpable as the city's ancient stones bore silent witness. Nearby, a gondola cut silently through the water, the soft splash of oars breaking the stillness. Luca Bellini, ever vigilant, guided his craft with practiced ease, his weathered face taut with concern as he watched the exchange unfold. His loyalty to Elena was unwavering, though the dangers seemed to multiply with each passing hour. "Elena," Luca called softly as he approached, "the city is watching. Be cautious." She nodded, appreciating the unspoken bond of trust between them. Yet even as allies gathered, the lines between friend and foe blurred. From a shadowed balcony above, Isabella Moretti observed the scene with an inscrutable expression. Her usual poise and grace concealed a turmoil beneath a flicker of doubt amid her cold calculation. The mask she wore so well threatened to slip, betraying the complexity of her loyalties and the ambitions that tied her to both Elena and Marco. As the night deepened, the floodwaters seemed to pulse with a life of their own, mirroring the escalating stakes. Elena knew that the forthcoming confrontation was more than a battle of wills. It was a reckoning that would determine the fate of Venice's buried secrets and the fragile peace that hung over the city like the mist rolling in from the lagoon. The gathering storm was not just in the swirling waters or the looming clouds overhead, it was in every whispered promise and every shadowed glance, in the fragile alliances forged and broken amid the tide. And as Elena squared her shoulders, ready to face the darkness, she understood that the path ahead was fraught with peril, yet illuminated by a fierce hope that truth, like water, would find its way. The city held its breath, and so did she, on the precipice of revelation and ruin, to be continued. The murmur of the rising Aqua Alta was a constant backdrop as Elena Rossi and Luca Bellini slipped through the narrow canals in the fading dusk. The city was transformed, its ancient stones submerged beneath a veil of water, reflecting the twilight like a fractured mirror. They approached a nondescript canal, its dark surface rippling under the gentle breeze. Elena's heart quickened. This was the place, the coordinates found in the fragile manuscripts from the earlier dives. With practiced ease, Luca maneuvered his small boat towards a concealed grate partially hidden beneath a tangle of algae and debris. Elena's lantern cast a narrow beam, illuminating the rusted iron bars and the faint outline of stone steps descending into shadow. This hidden entrance was a secret long forgotten by most, submerged beneath centuries of water and silence. "Are you sure about this?" Luca whispered, glancing nervously at the water that lapped just below the grate. "As sure as I can be," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the cold bite of the evening air. "If what we've found is true, this chamber holds the key to everything." Together they pried open the grate, the metallic screech echoing unnervingly through the stillness. Elena took a deep breath and descended the steps, the water rising to her knees. Luca followed, steadying the lantern that illuminated the subterranean chamber. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and ancient wood, the silence punctuated only by the distant drip of water. Before them lay rows of glass-encased documents, manuscripts preserved in fragile stillness, their ink faded but legible under the careful glow of their lantern. Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. This was the archive, hidden beneath Venice's veins like a heartbeat long silenced. She knelt beside one case and carefully lifted the cover, revealing a stack of parchments yellowed with age. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded a map, its detailed markings revealing secret meeting points, coded symbols, and cryptic notes that challenged every accepted story of the city's Renaissance era. This changes everything," she murmured, eyes scanning the intricate lines and annotations. "These families, their alliances, their betrayals, it's all here." Luca's face was grave. "If this gets out, it could tear the city apart." Elena nodded, the weight of responsibility settling upon her. The conspiracy was no longer a shadow in the past, but a living threat, its tendrils reaching into the present. She glanced at the water outside the chamber's narrow window. The same water that had concealed these truths for centuries now seemed to threaten to drown them all. Suddenly, a faint splash echoed from above. Elena's breath caught as she peered through the murky window. A tall figure stood at the canal's edge, Marco Viani, his silhouette sharp against the fading light, his eyes cold and calculating. He watched her silently, a silent warning that the fight to protect these secrets was far from over. That night, Elena returned to her study, the chamber's documents spread before her like scattered pieces of a fractured puzzle. The rain tapped steadily on the window, a rhythmic reminder of Venice's fragile existence. She sat alone, the gravity of her discovery pressing down like the weight of the floodwaters outside. How much of this truth should she reveal? Could the city survive such upheaval? The beauty of Venice was a delicate veneer, beneath which corruption festered like a wound. To expose it risked not only her safety, but the very soul of the city she loved. Her fingers traced the edges of the parchments, her mind racing with possibilities and dangers. The archive was no longer just a collection of forgotten history, it was a battleground, and Elena stood at its center, poised between revelation and ruin. As the night deepened, so did her resolve. The answers lay beneath the surface, in the water and the shadows, waiting to be brought to light. But the question remained: at what cost? The Aqua Alta continued its relentless rise, echoing the swelling tide of secrets threatening to engulf them all. Elena's journey was far from over. Beneath the surface, the true story of Venice waited to be told. The sky hung low and leaden over Venice, the heavy clouds blending seamlessly with the rising waters that swallowed the narrow alleys and piazzas like a slow, inevitable tide. Elena Rossi stood at the edge of the flooded canal, the cold water lapping softly against the stone embankment beneath her worn boots. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight knot, strands dampened by the mist that clung to the city like a shroud. She drew a breath, the salty scent of the lagoon mingling with the musty odor of wet stone and ancient wood. Across the narrow expanse of water, Marco Viani appeared as if summoned by the very shadows that pooled beneath the Venetian facades. Tall and impeccably dressed despite the flooding, his sharp eyes glinted with a cold calculation that sent a shiver down Elena's spine. He moved with the confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable, the privilege of centuries etched into the smooth lines of his tailored coat. Luca Bellini lingered discreetly behind Elena, his wiry frame blending into the gloom. His face, weathered by years under the Venetian sun and salt air, was taut with concern. He had warned Elena of the dangers before, but witnessing the man who embodied the city's darkest secrets now confronting her so directly brought the reality crashing down like the relentless aqua altar. "You should not have come here, Elena," Marco began, his voice low but slicing through the damp air like a blade. "There are things buried beneath these waters. The past is a dangerous thing to disturb." Elena met his gaze evenly, the piercing resolve in her eyes a stark contrast to the soft rippling of the canal. "The past belongs to everyone, Marco, not just to those who think they can rewrite it to protect their legacies." A faint, almost amused smile played at the corner of Marco's lips. "Legacies require protection. Stability demands it. You threaten to unravel centuries of order with your meddling." "Order built on lies," Elena replied sharply. "On betrayal and silence." "The documents I've found fabrications," Marco interrupted, stepping closer so that the faintest ripple of water brushed their feet. "Stories spun by those who want to see Venice fall apart. You are a fool to believe you can change what is already set in stone." The tension between them was palpable, as thick as the humid fog rolling in from the lagoon. Elena's mind raced, weighing each word, each subtle inflection. She knew this was more than a battle of ideology. It was a fight for the soul of Venice itself. Luca shifted behind her, the scrape of his oar against the submerged stones barely audible. His presence was a silent reassurance, a reminder that she was not alone in this fight, even as the city seemed to conspire against her. "You speak of stability," Elena said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "But what is stability if it demands the sacrifice of truth?" Marco's eyes narrowed. "Truth is a luxury reserved for those with the power to wield it responsibly. You, Elena, are reckless. And you are afraid," she countered, "afraid that the truth will drown you and your family's legacy, just as the rising waters threaten to drown Venice." For a moment, the two regarded each other in silence, the only sound the gentle slapping of water and the distant tolling of church bells. Around them, the city held its breath, the ancient stones absorbing the weight of their confrontation. "You don't understand," Marco said finally, his voice quieter, tinged with an almost imperceptible vulnerability. "I do this for Venice, for its future. Sometimes sacrifices must be made." Elena's gaze softened just a fraction, but her resolve did not waver. "Sacrifices made in darkness breed nothing but shadows. I will not let those shadows define this city's story." The floodwaters crept higher, spilling over the edge of the quay and swirling around their feet, blurring the boundaries between land and water, truth and deception. It was as if the city itself was challenging them, reminding them that beneath the beauty and grandeur lay depths as treacherous and unpredictable as the tides. Marco took a step back, his expression hardening once more. "This isn't over, Elena. The lines have been drawn. Choose your side carefully." With that, he turned and disappeared into the mist-shrouded alleys, leaving Elena standing alone at the water's edge, the weight of history pressing down on her like the floodwaters threatening to engulf the city. Luca approached, his voice low and steady. "You did well. But the danger grows. We must be cautious." Elena nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon where the sun struggled to pierce the grey veil. "The city's fate is tangled in these waters, Luca, and so is mine, but I will not back down, not now." As the aqua altar continued its relentless rise, Elena felt the lines between past and present, friend and foe, truth and deception blur beneath her feet. The battle for Venice's soul had begun, and the city was holding its breath for the outcome. But deep beneath the surface, in the dark, murky depths of the canals, secrets waited patiently, ready to resurface and rewrite history once again. The confrontation was but a ripple in the vast tide of events, yet to come an opening salvo in a war fought not with swords, but with stories, shadows, and the unyielding power of the truth. Elena's journey was far from over. The waters were rising, and with them, the stakes. The city whispered around her, a timeless murmur of stone and water, secrets and betrayal, waiting for the dawn to bring its reckoning. Venice lay shrouded in a thick mist that clung to the labyrinth of canals like a silent shroud. The aqua altar had reached new heights, swallowing the city's streets and alleys, turning them into transient rivers where gondolas replaced footsteps and shadows whispered secrets beneath the flickering lamplight. Elena Rossi moved cautiously through the flooded passageways, each step a careful negotiation with the murky waters that threatened to betray her by swallowing a misstep. Her mind was a tempest of doubt and determination. The fragile alliances she had forged over the past weeks now trembled on the edge of collapse. The subtle threads that once bound her to allies like Isabella Moretti and Luca Bellini were fraying, worn thin by suspicion, fear, and conflicting loyalties. The evening had begun with a summons to one of Isabella's exclusive gatherings, a glittering affair held within the gilded halls of a palazzo overlooking the Grand Canal. Elena had hesitated, aware of the risks, but the promise of information and the need to gauge Isabella's true intentions drew her in. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of aged wood and expensive perfume, mingled with the faint saltiness of the encroaching tide. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across faces both familiar and foreign, their expressions guarded behind masks of polite indifference. Elena's eyes searched the crowd until they found Isabella, poised near a marble column, her posture graceful but rigid, her cold gaze unyielding. "Elena," Isabella greeted her with a slight nod, the warmth in her voice carefully measured. "I trust the city has not been too unwelcoming." "The aqua altar spares no one," Elena replied, her tone neutral, eyes narrowing slightly. "Nor does it spare secrets." Isabella's smile was thin, almost imperceptible. "Secrets are the currency of Venice, are they not? Some are meant to be kept, others revealed at the right moment." Their conversation was a delicate dance of words and insinuations. Elena pressed gently, seeking clarity about Isabella's stance. But the nobler woman remained an enigma, part ally, part adversary. Whispers floated around them, snippets of conversations laden with veiled threats and unspoken alliances. Elena felt the weight of centuries of history pressing down, intertwining with the present in a dangerous web. As the night deepened, Elena excused herself, her mind heavy with the realization that Isabella's loyalties were as fluid as the waters flooding the city. Trust would have to be earned, if at all. Outside, the mist had thickened, swallowing the edges of the palazzo. Luca Bellini awaited her by the canal, his brow furrowed, eyes shadowed with concern. He wore the traditional gondolier's striped shirt, but tonight, his usual calm demeanor was replaced by urgency. "We need to move, Elena," he said quietly, guiding her toward his gondola. "It's not safe here." The gondola sliced through the dark waters, the only sounds the gentle lapping against the boat's hull and the distant tolling of church bells. Luca's grip on the oar was tight, knuckles pale, as he navigated the winding canals with practiced ease. "What's wrong?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The families are restless. Marco's reach grows stronger. There are eyes everywhere, and not all are friendly." Elena swallowed hard, the enormity of the threat settling like a stone in her stomach. Luca's protective instincts clashed with his pragmatism. He wanted to shield her from harm, but the danger was no longer just shadows and whispers, it was a tangible force closing in. Back in her small rented room, Elena sat by the window. The city's muffled sounds filtered through the rain. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across her notes and fragile manuscripts. She traced the faded ink with trembling fingers, the evidence of betrayal and manipulation unfolding before her eyes. But even as the truth revealed itself, Elena felt more isolated than ever. The people she had counted on were now sources of doubt. The city she loved seemed to turn against her with every rising tide. The floodwaters outside mirrored the turmoil within, relentless, unpredictable, and threatening to consume everything she held dear. A sudden knock at the door shattered her reverie. Heart pounding, Elena opened it to find Marco Vianney, his tall figure silhouetted against the dim corridor light. His calculating eyes met hers, cold and unyielding. "We must speak," he said smoothly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Venice is a delicate balance, Elena. It would be a shame to see it broken by reckless revelations." The room seemed to shrink around them, the threat in his presence palpable. Elena stood her ground, knowing that the coming days would demand every ounce of her courage and wit. The alliances she had once trusted now fractured beneath the weight of secrets and fear. In the city where water concealed as much as it revealed, Elena would have to navigate treacherous currents, not just of the canals, but of human hearts. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: survival meant learning to trust herself above all else. As the tide rose outside, swallowing the ancient stones of Venice, Elena prepared to face the storms both within and without, determined to unearth the buried truths, no matter the cost. The city's fate and her own hung in the balance, suspended between hope and betrayal, beneath the ever-watchful gaze of the water. And as the night deepened, the echoes of fractured alliances whispered through the flooded streets, carrying with them the promise of confrontation and the shadow of secrets yet to be uncovered.